What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Standpoint Podcast, episode 32. With me is my co-host, Jordan Bohannon. Jordan, how you doing today, brother?
This is about take 7, so I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Let's just get into it today. We have a big guest today, one controversial in some parts of Iowa and a legend and a folk hero in other parts of Iowa. Today we have the current Utah Jazz forward, former Iowa State Cyclone himself, Mr. Twitter Fingers, George Niang. George, how you doing today? I fucked up the name. George Niang, guys out there. George. How you doing, George?
Wow, he's gonna rifle that off and then call me Mr. Twitter Fingers. That's crazy. But no, it's good to be on here. Thank you guys for having me on. I look forward to talking some shit along the lines of this podcast.
So Jordan, we to be transparent, we actually had recorded this before, but we had some issues with it. So Jordan, I'm just gonna have you start off with this. Obviously, for those who haven't known, Jordan hasn't played. Jordan did not play George. So Jordan, who would you say? Well, first of all, give me your first impression of George. I know we talked about this before, but how did you view him? And I guess who would you say are the current players in Iowa State that you've played in your career? Is the most similar to George in the way they, either playing style or how much shit they talk, or in your opinion?
Well, it's funny that a lot of people on the outside that look at us on social media, yeah, we talk a lot of shit to each other and we're from different rivalry schools. But the fact of the matter is that we have him on this podcast, like shows how much, there's some mutual respect between the two of us, which I think is pretty dope just to have because, a lot of people talk shit, but not a lot of people, have a personal conversation with them actually for one. So from that aspect, I think that's really cool that we're able to do this. But no, it's really funny you bring the first impression up because the first time I saw him was watched him play because I didn't watch much Iowa State when I was growing up. But the first time I watched him play was when he blew the kiss to the Iowa student section. I was like, man, that's a player like I kind of want to emulate a little bit. Like I want to be that kind of guy that's out there with some swagger. I want to be a guy that is trying to make big plays and, talking shit to the student section. I think that was sick. And, I kind of wanted to compare myself with him a little bit like that.
George, what's your first impression of Jordan? Obviously, you didn't play against him, but you've probably seen a couple of games or seen games on TV. What was your first impression of Jordan compared to how you see him now?
Yeah, my first impression was like, man, this dude running around hitting all these threes, like I get the same thing. You don't really look like you're that good of a basketball player, but when you come up and end up playing, it's like, all right, that kid can actually play. So it's something definitely, relatable there. And then obviously, as much pain it caused me to sit and watch him sign his shoes and put them wherever he decided to put them. We won't really talk about that, but just the mutual respect that he can go out there and do what he does and talk shit. And then, when you win, like that's the thing is like when you win, like all bets are off. You can do whatever you want. You can talk as much shit as you want to talk for that year. And the fact that, I blew a kiss, I had to sit back and watch on my TV him put his shoes on the court. I mean, I told him this before. I was like, I hate you, but that was a ballsy move. So I can respect it.
Can you go into the rivalry a little bit more, George and Jordan? What did the Iowa State rivalry mean to you? Obviously, getting into school as a freshman, and how has it progressed? And do you still think it has that intensity that it's always had since you guys were playing?
I do think it's funny because a lot of people like if Iowa wins, then all Iowa State fans will be like, oh, this is their Super Bowl. Like this is the only game that matters. And then when Iowa State wins, it's the same exact argument on the other way. So I think that from that aspect, it's so funny to see that on Twitter because, I know you were 3-1, but I was 4-1. I played 5 years, so I technically have better winning percentage. However, I know your argument. You'll say you went to the Sweet 16 and I didn't, so you got me there. But at the end of the day, I went out with a 4-1 record, and you had a 3-1 record.
Hey, you did the victory lap, man. They didn't let me come back for the victory lap. No, I think it's funny both sides where like literally the same excuses are used, back and forth. And if one team loses, it's like, well, let's play football or let's wrestle or we have the all-time, winning percentage. And it's like, just like George said, typical, like, he has the winning percentage. Like nobody cares. If you won this year, then you won. Like and talk your shit and run your mouth. If you didn't win, then like whatever, go back home, figure it out, and next year come back even harder. But it's funny how people think that like there's like this crazy hatred between us players. And yeah, I'm sure like we don't like each other. Like I don't think like I've talked the most shit to like Zach McCabe, and like I don't hate him, but I don't like him. You know what I mean? Like so. But I think the rivalry is still like alive and well, and to see that it gets like this much attention is good for the state of Iowa. I know, you know, Jordan, you lived there, but you know, I was only there for a short period of time, but it's been real influential in my life, and I'll always have a special place in my heart for the state of Iowa.
Speaking of winning, I know it's kind of a sore spot here, but what happened to your boys' names this year, George?
There wasn't much winning, so I don't, what do you want me to say? I mean, it's tough. It's tough.
I want to say something real quick before you finish this. After I left my shoes on the court last year, or what was it 2 years ago now?
It's 2 years ago.
Condit, I didn't know this until after the game, this last year's game. He quote tweeted that tweet and said, "I bet he won't be doing this next year when we play him."
Hey, listen, man.
What do you have to say about that? I think that was the largest win I think Iowa's ever had against Iowa State. I believe in the rivalry, and
really?
it was something like that. And you have a guy that won 2 games, and he's talking shit on Twitter about next year, and they pull up 2-game win season.
Listen, I can't speak for anybody else, but all I know is that when I was in school, when I played you guys had us down 20. At home both years, and then it was just like what happens to you guys towards the end of each year. You guys get a little frazzled, and you know, bad stuff starts to happen. It gets a little spooky, scary, and you guys lose it. But no, I can't talk much on this year. Obviously, you know, teams go through their ups and downs. This one was really down, and you know, I played for Coach Prom. And I also played for Coach Otzelberger. So, you know, I'm excited to see what he can do moving forward. And Jordan, with you leaving and not exercising this 6 year of eligibility, they might be recruiting you to come back. So you might have 2 wins in the middle of the year, and Pat and Connor McCaffrey are texting you being like, "Hey bro, can you come back this year?"
Is that what happened?
We don't have anybody to make threes. No, I'm old, man. I can't even show up on a college campus without people being like, "What are you doing here?"
So George, let me get your opinion on, so obviously when you're a student athlete, you see people wearing the Iowa State jerseys, probably your jersey too. I mean, obviously it doesn't have your name on it, but you know, the number 31. So what is your opinion on that? You know, how did you basically internalize being this college kid on campus, probably not having a ton of money to your name, but seeing all these people wearing your jersey, them making money off of you? I mean, do you think there's an injustice on that part of the NCAA exploiting athletes, or, you know, what was your opinion of it? Maybe it could be different between when you played and now.
Yeah. I mean, I've always felt, you know, when I was in college that, you know, it's kind of, you know, athletes need to be compensated or paid. And I don't know how you make it so that it's an even playing field, but there's also an aspect of me that like realizes that once being a professional, you realize money like makes things that were once fun like real ugly. Like people get real ugly when money is involved. So there's a part of me that was like the purest joy of basketball was for sure in college, because you know, everyone kind of got the same stipend check. Everybody got the same, you know, meal swipe plan. And so it's kind of like an even playing field. But that being said, it's really asinine that, you know, players are being held out for eligibility because of they're trying to exercise their likeness and can't make money off this, but you know, the school can make money off them. And it's not, I just think that's ridiculous. Like it needs to be a two-way street. I understand that, you know, we're gifted a lot. We fly private, you know, we're given full scholarships, but let's not forget who's out there running around like a billboard marketing the school. Like it's not the professor of statistics, you know, it's not the professor of physics. You know what I mean? We're out there traveling the country, up all hours of the night trying to complete homework, workouts, flying to games, and we're not supposed to be frustrated with being compensated. Because the worst thing in the world is that you take a kid out of a rough situation in high school and you let him be glorified at, a big time school. And then once his time is over there, he is literally going back to the same situation with nothing to show for it. There at least needs to be some financial compensation with that. No kid should be, making university money and having them grow as a university, and then they have nothing to show for it. That's just not how the world works. That's not how investments work. And I just think it's an investment for the school and the person, going to a university. So I completely agree with what Jordan is spearheading with, players being taken care of and compensated, especially when it's their own likeness. Like the university didn't make George Niang. The university didn't make Jordan Bohannon. Like we were self-made along with the people that took the time to help make us who we are. So they shouldn't be the only ones benefiting from what we're doing.
I do want to touch on the walking billboard, Zach, before you ask this question. Albine Christian, I don't know if you watched too much of the March Madness tournament this year, George, but when they made their run, they made, I think it was upwards of, I don't know the exact number, but it was upwards of close to $100 million off their school based off the advertisement that they were getting from those players, which is asinine, like you were saying. But I also want to touch on the fact how much, even us two, being from the state of Iowa or going to schools in the state of Iowa, how much possible money there is for these players in these communities. I mean, it's all a small town, man. Like I know you can speak on it too, but everyone knows who you are in the state of Iowa. Everyone knows you for decades after it. But the money you could have made in that 5 year span is something that could set you up for the rest of your life, no matter if you went to professional sports or not. And I think that's the most thing that people don't realize about us when we go to Iowa State or Iowa.
Yeah, no, for sure. And especially because people don't realize like Iowa and Iowa State is like what the state has. Like they live, breathe, like die for their school. And when I think about it, like you think about the appearances that like you'll have the opportunity to do now, I'm not sure with COVID, but where people ask you to do a signing for X amount of dollars, and whether if it's 1,000 or 2,000, that's like real money, especially when you're in college. And if you have the opportunities to do that over a 4-year span or go to some kid's birthday party and get paid for it, those opportunities are endless. And the fact that those can't be, taken advantage of because of likeness or, keeping amateur status is like a little ridiculous. It's almost like they're using it as, I want to protect the athlete, but they're almost, screwing the athlete. I mean, because there are times where I've had teammates, I've been lucky enough to not be in this situation where they can't afford gas or something comes up and they have to pay a fine or pay a ticket or parking tickets. And you have to figure out how to make ends meet. But then the next day you're driving to a full packed stadium arena that's on national television, but you got nothing to show for it. Like, so how am I this much of a hot commodity, but I can barely afford, you know what I mean, to put gas in my car or to have food, So I think that's the food one is a little more sensitive because we do get a ton of meal swipes. There are, food provided at the facility. So that one's a little more sensitive, but like even to put like gas in your car, just everyday things where it doesn't make sense that I'm not able to afford those things, but, I'm driving to a packed arena and people are dying to see me play a game. That stuff doesn't add up to me, and it never will.
The funny thing that actually segues better now. So we had Alan Lazard on a couple weeks ago, and he even said that there's points where he was at Iowa State, and he's like, I could barely scrape enough money together to get a Chipotle burrito, and I'm in class, in a math class, and there's people wearing my jersey. I see my face all around campus, and like I could barely go out and get food. And he just thought how funny it was. It's like all this money it's making, all of these jerseys I'm seeing, all of this stuff based on you, whether it's your 31 jersey, Jordan's 3 jersey. And like you said, you're struggling. Like, I know that in a sense that you may not be like at the lowest of lowest with the stuff you guys get, but still, I mean, like you said, going to a packed stadium and being a walking billboard and having to get some pennies together to get some food after a game is it's kind of a struggle.
Yeah, no, it's something has to be done. And I don't know what it is, but something has to be done. There's way too much money that is being made um, for these things not to be done. And I don't want to hear about anybody saying, you know, oh, well, you guys get a scholarship, or you guys travel private and you guys get all this gear. Yeah, well, you'll never understand how much we sacrifice for that. Like, people don't understand that, during the summer where we have to be on campus, wake up at 6 a.m. to lift or condition, go to summer school, then keep our bodies in shape and play pickup. And, then when school comes around, be up, go to class, literally while everyone else has normal hours to, work or have an income. We have practice, we have to travel. We still have to get homework done on top of all those things. And I just hate that people think that it looks so easy because they only see one aspect of it. You only see the 2 hours that we're on TV or playing at home, and you don't see the 12 hours that go into it, before that. And that's the tough part, is people are like, you guys are spoiled, you're complaining. It's like, no, I'm fighting for what's equal. And if you were in my shoes, you would feel the same way.
100%. I feel like we could talk about this for hours, but I do want to touch on the fan base, because this kind of leads into it. Talk about Iowa State fan base, how passionate they are. I know it's similar to Iowa. I mean, you'll probably make fun of how Carver's not sold out as much as Hilton, but talk about how faithful that the Iowa State Cyclone fan base is to you guys and was for you.
Yeah. I mean, you can't take my jokes before I'm
Jordan is jumping ahead of this, man.
That's
Let
what
him get one in. Let him get a couple in.
I was like, I can't even tee one up. But no, the Iowa State fan base is super passionate. I mean, obviously, I was lucky enough, to be there for 4 great years. And it was packed. I mean, we had Big Mondays there. We had Dick Vitale do games. It was just a awesome atmosphere. And I think the best part that what people don't understand is just real genuine people in the state of Iowa, especially Iowa State fans. Just obviously caring about who you are as a person, not only, as a player. And you said it earlier on in the podcast, but like, you do the right things in the state of Iowa, you'll be taken care of for life. And that's something that you cannot say for many other places. So that's why I always have genuine love and real love for Iowa State and the state of Iowa. But the fan base was unreal. I remember when I committed to Iowa State, they were 16-16, and literally the arena was still packed. And I think that just speaks volumes on who these fans are, that no matter what, through thick and thin, they're going to stick through. And the fan base has been amazing. People still reach out to this day. And if I could do 4 more years and do it all over again, I definitely would.
You brought up previously, I can't even remember if this is from the first recording or not, but so you mentioned how you and Jordan, at first look, may not look like you could hoop or you could ball or until you hop on the court. So my question is, are you happy that you had that chip on your shoulder? Do you think that, for both of you, do you think that fueled your game? Do you think that gave you the intensity and the extra drive to want to prove people wrong and just go out there and hoop? Or do you think it did more negative psychologically?
I'll touch on this first. I'm sure Jordan can speak endlessly on this. I think it made us into who we are. I think people doubting you just adds more motivation to show them that you are that. Because I think inside, like, we both know who we are, right? We both know what our strengths are. We know we're not going to be running around dunking on people. But the same people that are trying to come around and dunk on people are the same ones that, like, are confused on who they are, and maybe they rely on their athleticism and don't have the motivation to be better because they're getting all the accolades. Because not everybody can dunk, but everybody, I'm sure, thinks they can shoot threes at the level that, me and Jordan did at a college, or more or less Jordan at the college level. So I think it was a good thing for me. I mean, it just added more motivation, where I was coming in every day like, who's the next motherfucker that I'm going to prove wrong? And whether I looked the part or didn't look the part, or you liked me or didn't like me, I was going to produce. And I think that's, from what I've seen from Jordan's career, I mean, aren't you the all-time leader in three-pointers made? Like, first glance at you, like I saw a picture the other day of you your freshman year. Like nobody's like, hey, that guy is gonna hold the record in Iowa basketball history. Like let's be real. Just like nobody thought like me coming in was gonna be like, oh, that chubby kid from Massachusetts is gonna be like, you know, one of the
Sweet
leading
16.
scorers. Yeah, or go to a Sweet 16 or be one of the leading scorers in Iowa State history. Like, but that's what got us there. So that's what I have to say about it.
Oh yeah, it definitely provides a fuel for myself, and I know you touched on it too. But our ability to go on a nightly basis, especially in away crowds and people that are talking shit in the stands, or even opposing players, and being in a hostile environment, it's almost just how we grew up. Like people doubted us all along, and I played better in those hostile crowds. I liked playing and proving people wrong because that's how I grew up, and that's how I play better, and having that chip on my shoulder. So I mean, you touched on it perfectly, because that's that's the same way ever since I was little. People doubted me until I was finally put on the national stage.
How do you, so transferring that to the NBA, George, how do you deal with that? I know we had Tyler Cook on, and he said something that's important, that like you have to understand. Like,
Wait 1 second. Do you want to shout out Tyler Cook? Just signed his first official contract with the Detroit Pistons. That was fucking awesome. Proud for that man. He worked so hard for that.
Shout out Tyler Cook. So this is a mix too. So we had Alan Lazard said that we asked him, because he had the kind of similar journey with you and Tyler, kind of, working their way up, whether he's with practice squad or G League. And he said, I didn't know how to practice at the professional level. I didn't know how to hone my craft. I didn't know how to get the most out of those opportunities when people aren't watching. And Tyler even said that, knowing your role and knowing how you benefit the team. How has that transition been to you to the NBA? Has it been tough? Have you found your identity? And maybe even before that, how did you go about finding that and feel comfortable finally?
Yeah. To be honest with you, I had to trip and fall when I got into the NBA. And when I first made it to Indiana, I thought it would just be like college basketball. I'd come in, dribble as much as I wanted to, my game would fit them, when realistically I needed to figure out ways that parts of my game would fit into what the Pacers were doing. There's no way I was going to be dribbling around and taking isolation shots with Paul George on my team. That's just not realistic. But the practice habits are what's huge. Is like people talk about, like I've said this on the podcast before, like, oh, I need to get in my bag. Like, let me show you what's in my bag. And it's like, no, like you need two outfits in your bag, like rebounding and making shots. Like you don't need the dribble ISO. And that's where guys get confused, is they really just need to figure out, what can I do on my professional team that will get me on the court? And if that's shooting or rebounding or defending, great. Well, do that thing to a maximum level, because once you're on the court, then there's more opportunities for you to have small chances at showing that maybe you can play in pick and roll, or maybe that you can finish at the rim. But until then, find one thing that makes you stand out, because having everything, especially when you're a tweener guy like me, isn't going to cut it. But then to go off, I think Alan gave you that quote about practicing. Like practice habits are huge. Like you need to have a routine every single day, because if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And how I thought about this is, when I first got in the NBA, I was like, all right, I'll get in, get my shots up. And, if I'm not feeling good, then I won't shoot today. But no, like you need to have a regimented routine that you do when you're not feeling well, when you're feeling well, when you're feeling iffy about it, because you need all those hours to add up for you to get better. Because at the end of the day, like on realistic terms, like tweener guys, there's 60 new guys coming in every year looking to take your job. And if you're not one of the 50 to 70 NBA like superstars, then you know what I mean? Nothing's guaranteed. I mean, they could just cut you because the money doesn't add up. Never mind your skills. So you want to get to a point where I'm proven, and you guys need to keep me because I help you win games. And I think with practice habits, that's one of the only times you get better. And you need to have a set routine and constantly work at it, for sure.
Speak quickly, Jordan. So speaking on the business portion, you said sometimes there's logistical things like money. It's not even your ability on the court, right? Has the business aspect of basketball taken the purity or the joy of it away a little bit? I know it's added, being the opportunity to be in the NBA. It's a play against all-time great players and to have this opportunity and really elevate your game to the next level. But is there some type of purity or some type of joy that kind of decreases as you get the NBA just because there's so much business aspect to it?
It has its pros and cons. I'll say that, because its pros are you can't make this much money robbing a bank. So, I mean, that's the pros, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, the cons are like, growing up, it's like, if I'm better than him, like I'm going to get this opportunity or I'm going to play over him or this, that, and the other. And sometimes there may be a young guy who's a first round pick who's making more money than you, where it's like, sorry, we're going to give this guy an opportunity before we see it out with you. And sometimes that takes away from the purity and you're like, damn, like, why is it about that? But when you think about it, like NBA teams are billion-dollar assets and you're part of the investment. And if that young guy is an asset that they feel like can bring more money towards the investment or bring a championship, then that's how business works. And we're kind of not introduced to that in college, but in professional sports, that's how the cookie crumbles. And the faster you learn that to control the controllables and control what you can control, the better off you'll be. Because if you sit around trying to think about how you can spin it some way to understand it, you'll never understand it, and you'll drive yourself crazy.
I do want to touch on what you talked about before that. There's just certain roles you have to play to be in the NBA and stay in the NBA. I feel like yourself, Alex Caruso with the Lakers, Duncan Robinson especially. I mean, you and those guys right there just totally just found your own role to, just find a way to keep staying on the team, to find a role to, find your belonging. And I think, Duncan Robinson's a prime example of that. You saw what he did during the bubble. He just came off screens and shot the ball. Like, he didn't take any dribbles. He just tried to keep guys in front of him on defense. Wasn't a spectacular defender, but he just shot the shit out of the ball, and he's going to sign an unreal contract, I'm sure, coming up here soon.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think the biggest thing is you got to know who you are as a player, know your game, and don't try to get out of that box, because there's someone else on the team that can do that better than you. And when you're running out there trying to be someone else, that's when you see guys on TV, you're like, what the hell is he doing? And yeah, you talk about the Duncan Robinsons, the Alex Carusos. I mean, it's funny to think about, like, I grew up with Duncan Robinson. He literally lived like 20 minutes up the road from me. And I played Alex Caruso in college, and we were all in the G League at the same time, just trucking and trying to get out. I remember talking with these guys before G League games when there was like 15 people in the stands, and they're like, yeah, man, like, how's it going? Like, keep pushing. And it just made me realize, like, the longer like you can stay in it without quitting and keep trucking and keep moving and keep pushing forward, the better things end up for you. Because there's guys that I was like, man, he's more talented than him, or he's more talented than me. But those guys just didn't have the mental capacity to just continue to keep pushing. They just quit. And I feel like that's what half of America is. Like, if you literally can stay in there long enough, half of America will quit. So therefore, you only have to be better than half the population, because half of them will already be like, no, this is too tough. I don't want to do this. Like, how many people have you known that like, I'm going to transfer? Like, the coach really, didn't really give me like an opportunity, but it's like, well, you didn't give it a chance to really like go take that opportunity. And I feel like that's where, I don't want to say this generation, because I hate people that say like, oh yeah, Gen Zs.
But you're right. You're right. No, you're right.
Oh yeah, 100% right.
No, it's like people just quit. And it's like, how can you quit? Like, this is something that, like, at least for me, or I'm sure for you, Jordan, like, you dream about this shit. Like, there are times you're in your backyard, like counting down, like 3, 2, 1, you know what I mean? And shooting jump shots and going to the gym every day and playing AAU. This is what you dreamed about. And then you're just willing to just walk away from that because like there's a little obstacle in your way. Like I've never understood that. So that's what I mean, where it's like guys like Duncan Robinson, Alex Caruso, they just never quit. And I feel like that's with all successful people, is like, they just had the grit and will to never quit. Like, just standing there and continue to take life beating them and not quitting. Those are what successful people are.
I want to touch on the.
He should be a motivational speaker on top of NBA basketball player.
I know that was good.
Eric
that was
Thomas,
good.
Right?
Yeah, Eric Thomas is the man. I got a little goosebumps just listening to you there.
Yeah, that was. I think that Jordan makes a good point with that, and I want to get your opinion on this. So obviously, when you graduate, you have options: NBA, G League, or even overseas. How much attention or even thought did you give transferring overseas, or was your whole time being like, I'm going to be in the G League, I'm going to grind it out, I'm going to go through the work, I'm going to have the blood, sweat, and tears, and I want to get here one day, and I don't even want to think about the alternative?
Um, that's a good question because you have to be realistic with yourself, especially when it comes to making money, right? Like if a team overseas offered me $1 million like net, I mean, that'd be foolish of me to turn that down. But I also realized, that I was young and I hadn't developed a market overseas, and I got drafted also, so I had a deal, from the beginning. But when I got cut and had to go down to the G League, um, I always, had a dream about playing in the NBA. So I was gonna pursue that until it was exhausted. And lucky enough, I wasn't faced with the, decision to be like, all right, you're getting a little too old. The NBA may be in the rearview mirror. Before I actually got a crack at the NBA and showed that I could play at this level. But those are real decisions. So to be honest with you, I would say I never, was all in on overseas because I was lucky enough to have continuous opportunities to prove myself in the NBA. But I can't say like I didn't think about it. There were times where I sat down and had a contract offer from an NBA team and had one from overseas and was like, all right, well, I'm leaning towards the NBA one, but I have to look at this one from overseas. But I think it all should be like, people should pursue what makes them happy. And if the NBA is a dream and you want to pursue that, then you should do that. You shouldn't just, fall victim to, pursuing money. You'll have the rest of your life to make money, but you won't have the rest of your life to chase your NBA dream.
Let's shift back to college a little bit. Iowa State. I'm gonna play a little game with you.
Oh, shoot.
I want you to say something you love about Iowa.
Is there an end button on here?
It's like we're breaking up here.
Yeah.
Jordan will say something nice about Iowa State. We're gonna do two ways.
Iowa State, and I'll say
go two ways.
No, I don't want that to happen because he's gonna use it as like a pity. Like, oh, you guys won 2 games, I went 4-1. Like, I'll say something nice. Like, everyone, like, let's be real. Like, I don't think we have like. There's a respect, but I don't think we have anything nice to say. I mean, like, yeah, sure, Carver, Hawkeyes, dome seating is sweet. Like, nobody's gonna. I can't think of anything like making up to say. Like, thank you guys for letting me beat you guys 3 times. Like, that's probably the nicest thing I have to say.
Thanks for blowing 2 leads.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like I said,
Jared Utah, thanks for scoring 30 points on me in the first half and only 2 in the second. Like, you know what I mean?
I was hoping to bring that up. Yeah, that was.
I remember I was coming back from a high school game and I saw it. We checked the scores on the bus. Jared Utah had 30 points at halftime. I'm like, what the fuck? He's gonna have 75 on you guys. I thought that's what I thought. I'm like,
so I started out on him. And like, he was like all like, he's like quiet. He was like all jacked up, like before the game, like screaming in the huddle. And I remember like looking over like, yo, what is wrong with this dude? He came down, like hit me with like a shimmy fake layup. And then someone threw it ahead to him. And we had like a Pioneer sign at like on our court. And he like caught it there. And I looked at him and he looked at me and I'm like, I'm not going to fucking shoot that. He shot it from the Pioneer sign and like back rimming in, and I was like, oh shit. And we were down like, I think it was like we were down 20 and we ended up coming back and winning. And we had to put like Matt Thomas on Jared Utah to stop him. It was probably like one of the lowest moments of my life where you're like, all right, go put your shooter on their best player because you can't guard him. And we ended up winning. And yeah, I did like an interview and had like a fat lip because I went for a loose ball and Adam Woodbury like cranked me in the face with like an elbow. It's like, yeah, but I mean, I'm sure you don't have anything genuinely nice to say, just like I don't have anything genuinely nice to say. There's a lot of respect, but like when football season comes along, basketball season comes along, it's like I'm trying to win and then I'm trying to talk reckless and see what reaction I can get.
Did you happen
George.
to? Did you happen? I want to say this real quick. Did you happen to see when Monte and Tyler went to the game, the
I was
football
sitting
game?
with them.
Oh,
That
you
was
were
the
sitting
worst-
with them?
Shut up! No way.
That was the worst experience.
I was dying laughing at his tweets because he was just hyping up the crowd behind him, wearing his own Tyler Cook jersey. I'm like, bro, this man is fucking hilarious.
Yo, that's dangerous.
That is
But,
dangerous. But
like-
he could get away with it though.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Like, he's
No
gonna
one's
talk
fucking
shit to
with
him.
Yeah, no, for sure.
What let me think here. So you've played against a lot of good competition. Who's the best player that you've played in the Big 12, and who's the most annoying player that you hated playing against?
The best player is definitely Joel Embiid. Like, not even close. And then someone that actually Joel Embiid and Marcus Smart. Like, Marcus Smart's just a flat out winner. Like, and he could guard like 1 through 5. Joel Embiid was just like, I couldn't see the rim. Like, he was like guarding me. I was like, I couldn't see the rim, and he could pass. He could shimmy, shake, score on the block. He could shoot. And then the most annoying player, I never really let like one dude like ever get to me on the court like that. Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm trying to think of who would even like come up in that.
Like most like pesky, like annoying, just like bro, like shut the fuck up, like type guy that like you just like.
Did people talk shit that much like when you were playing? Like, was that a thing?
Oh yeah, no, that was for sure. That was for sure a thing. But it was it would probably be because I feel like when you're at that level of a player in college, like there's like a respect thing. Like, yeah, you'll go back and forth, but there's nothing knowing that I was like, damn, I can't stand. Actually, I think it was he was a bigger lefty kid from TCU. His name was like Chris Washburn.
Yeah.
And he would just like one of those dudes that would pick you up full court. Like, he's like a center, but would pick me up full court when I'm just like, the reason why I was bringing the ball up was like relief the guards of like pressure.
Yeah.
And he's like picking me up and I got to like spin 7 times. And like, I'm out of breath now. And now my 3-pointer's short because, I'm out of breath from you know what I mean? Pressure me 94 feet. But yeah, there's nobody really that I would like say that really just like, I was like, all right, I hate, you know what I mean? You're driving me nuts. But that's one dude that bothered me. Him and Kenrich Williams was a pretty good defender for TCU in college, and those guys used to bug me.
Who was, touch on your Iowa State team, most memorable player you played with, most memories you had with, best friend playing through the days at Iowa State?
Oh, definitely got to be Naz Long. I mean, me, him, and Matt Thomas were like lived across the hall from each other. We were super tight. Obviously I played with a lot of great players, Melvin, Edgem, DeAndre Kane. But I would say, some of the memorable moments would probably be like Naz hitting that 3 to send it into overtime against Oklahoma State. God, the memories are endless, but I mean, those 2 guys were my guys. Obviously I'm close with, Monte, Abdul, Deontay. But those guys kind of came in, Abdul and Deontay kind of came in later in the picture. Jamil McKay was also later in the picture, but we're all of us are super close. We're all on group texts. I'm sure you know how it is. Guys leave, but it's like they almost like they never left. You guys are in contact, and when you see each other, it's like nothing ever changed.
Off the court wise, I do want to talk about this story. I think it was I can't remember when Iowa State played at Iowa. We're at Spoko, and
oh no,
there's I think there's 6 or 7 you motherfuckers walk in, and
yeah.
and I don't know if it was Tyler, if it was, I think Dom Yule was there, or Ahmad Wagner.
Yeah.
It was someone, and they go up to the bartender and try to get you guys kicked out to start.
For real?
Yeah. And I see him walking. I can't remember who it was on our team. And I didn't know anyone. I didn't know you that well. I didn't know Monte. I didn't know anyone that was walking in. But I'm like, holy shit, like there's about to be a fight, like for a second. Like I thought, like I got scared. Like I was like, I can't take on anyone right now. Like I could barely stand up in the bar right now. Like I'm not suited
yeah,
for
you've
this.
had your experiences, huh?
Yeah, I know you did too. I know you did
Hey,
too.
yeah, I was just lucky enough there were still flip phones back in my day. They got
Oh,
your iPhone cameras nowadays.
dude, it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah,
So-
no, that's funny. Spoko was literally like body to body in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was rough. We saw you guys in there, and I'm like, you know what? I don't even want to get into this, but that's wild. If I knew they tried to get us kicked out, I probably would have threw my drink at them.
So just to wrap up, since we talked about Iowa State a lot, what was your NBA moment where it was like the welcome to the NBA moment, like holy shit, like I'm out here like this. It could be bad, it could be embarrassing, and then which kind of moment where you had success and you're like, okay, like maybe I could hoop a little bit, like this is I belong here.
So I think we played like I feel like my success moment came before my welcome to the NBA moment. So we played Chicago in preseason, and our coach put me in. It was against Fred because he was coaching the Bulls. Put me in with like, the last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter, and I had like 4 threes, right? And I ended up finishing the game with like 16 points in like 10 minutes. And I was like, you know what? I could really do this. And literally, that was preseason, and then the regular season started, and there were 2 games in, we were playing the Bulls again. And I think it was Robin Lopez. There was a rebound, and I went up for the defensive rebound, and I didn't think that he was coming. I thought I was like soaring up to get it. And literally he like jumped up over me, pulled it from my hands, and like bumped me. And as I fall out of bounds, like gets up and dunks it. And just like starts like with his wild hair, like long socks, like screaming like, ah, and I'm like down on the ground, like, what the, that's when I was like like, welcome to the NBA moment. Like, this is for real now.
Yeah.
And so those are my 2 moments, but obviously, transitioning over to the Jazz was probably one of the best things for me. Quinn Snyder is a mastermind when it comes to, X's and O's and motivating guys and getting the best out of guys. So my whole experience here has been a success story. Every day, it's just like, wow, I really feel like I can do this at a next level, with the development that they have over in this organization.
Are you a Mormon now, converted yet or no?
You're gonna get me in trouble, man. No, I'm not a Mormon, and people make it out to be like crazy and stuff like that. But no, Mormon people are good people. They've taken great care of me, just like any other person in Utah. They're awesome.
I can't not bring it up because we have the opportunity here. But last couple of years ago, with the whole Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell thing, how fucking crazy was that? You don't even need to get into it. Just like how crazy was that? Just give me like
man, that was wild for a while. The unknown is like, and you're quarantining and nobody's seeing each other, so there's no like see each other at practice, like haha, joke around. So it was wild. I think people blew it out of proportion though. Like it was really like all over the place. Like it was a problem. It wasn't a problem, but it was just something that just was happening. And I think there's a bunch of superstars in the NBA that, don't get along with each other, but this was just magnified. And the crazy part is like, they're actually like super like cool and like close. So that's why I was like, it was made into something that didn't need to be made into something. But being in the middle of it was kind of like, damn, this is real drum.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Well,
before Zach, you wrap up, I just want to say one thing. I appreciate you hopping on here. I know a lot of people think that we hate each other, but I feel like there's some sort of mutual respect that you're able to hop on here. We're able to have a real conversation, talk about some real shit, have some laughs. But I just want to say thank you, brother. Thank you for doing this, and I wish the best for you.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, no, for sure. Always mutual respect. I love what you did for your school and the state of Iowa. So I always got to shout out greatness. So keep doing what you're doing. I wish you nothing but the best of luck going forward in your professional career, and hopefully we'll be able to link soon.
For sure.
And I want to shout out. I know, George, you've had a little bit of beef on Twitter and things like that, and you
talk too much. You talk too much shit. That's what it is.
I think one thing, you came at Jordan or something, and I was just like, Jordan, he's obviously restricted what he could say. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna come with this guy's neck. Like, fuck it, I don't care. Like there's so much shit against me. Like, whatever, I'll just do it. But I do respect you coming on here, man. Like, I really like. It would be easy to be like, nah, fuck y'all. Like, just whatever. Like, good luck. But like, I mean, it's cool you coming on here, man. I think it's good to break down the barrier and the walls and stuff. And as cheesy as it sounds, I mean, that's not even our tagline: breaking down the barriers with like the athlete and like even the fans, and like letting each other know that like, not everyone like you see on TV. You're not this big dickhead. You know what I mean? Like, you're a genuine
for sure.
guy, and, like,
For sure.
There's similarities than differences, and I think that's
Exactly.
what's good to know. And again, I appreciate you. When I play with the Jazz in 2K, I'll start subbing you in. I got you on that. Hit you
My
with some
dog.
I got you on that. So I appreciate
Get my
you
2K rating up.
Well, thank you guys again for listening. Really enjoyed having George on the podcast today. Keep looking for some great episodes. Got some good guests coming up. Keep giving us reviews and 5-star ratings on iTunes. And see you guys next week.